Seraphina. Tonight I'm going to share a lighthearted story that always makes me smile whenever I think about it. It's about a dear family member who, despite her best intentions, had a knack for turning even the simplest social situations into moments of polite chaos. Her misadventures in etiquette taught me that sometimes the most memorable lessons come from the times when things don't go quite as planned. Before we begin, please remember to subscribe and follow if you haven't already. I love sharing these funny and reflective stories with you, and your support means the world to me. Now, let's take a deep breath, get comfortable, and enjoy this tale together. This story is about my Aunt Sylvia. Aunt Sylvia was the kind of person who truly believed in the power of good manners. She had a charming way of talking about etiquette, as though it was the glue that held society together. She loved hosting tea parties, sending handwritten thank you notes, and correcting our posture at family dinners. Her intentions were always noble, but the results? Well, let's just say they were often a little unconventional. One of my earliest memories of Aunt Sylvia's etiquette escapades happened at a family wedding. She had recently taken a course on the art of refined conversation and was determined to use her new skills at every opportunity. As the reception got underway, she decided to start a conversation with the bride's elderly great-uncle, whom she had never met before. Now, Aunt Sylvia had read that one of the best ways to connect with someone was to ask about their passions. So she leaned in and asked, "What brings you the most joy in life, dear sir?" in a voice that could only be described as theatrical. There was a pause, and then the great-uncle, who was a bit hard of hearing, squinted at her and said, "Did you just ask if I enjoy noise in my life?" Aunt Sylvia, not missing a beat, nodded enthusiastically and exclaimed, "Yes, precisely. I'm fascinated to hear your thoughts on the matter." What followed was a confusing exchange where the great-uncle went on about the perils of city living, and Aunt Sylvia tried to relate by talking about the musicality of a bustling marketplace. By the end of it, they were both thoroughly perplexed, but Aunt Sylvia felt she had made a meaningful connection. Another classic Aunt Sylvia moment occurred during a formal dinner party she hosted. She had recently acquired an etiquette book from the 1920s and had decided that this was a perfect opportunity to introduce some vintage sophistication into the gathering. She instructed us all on the proper use of multiple forks and even tried to teach us how to fold our napkins into swans before the guests arrived. Everything seemed to be going well until the dessert course. Aunt Sylvia, wanting to impress everyone, attempted to flambe the dessert herself, a bold move considering she had never done it before. She set the dessert on fire with such enthusiasm that it nearly ignited the tablecloth. Guests jumped back, napkins flew, and there was a brief moment where we all wondered if we should run for the fire extinguisher. To her credit, Aunt Sylvia remained remarkably calm, as though nothing was amiss, and simply declared, "And that, my friends, is what you call an element of surprise." It took us all a while to recover from the near catastrophe, but she played it off as an intentional touch of drama. There was also the time Aunt Sylvia tried to introduce the art of the perfect compliment at a family gathering. She had read somewhere that a compliment should always be unique and specific to the individual, so she made it her mission to avoid the usual "you look nice today" what a lovely dress." Instead, she approached my cousin Daniel, who had recently grown a rather unruly beard, and said, "Daniel, your beard has such a wild and unrestrained charm. It's almost as though it belongs to a medieval poet." Daniel's confused look spoke volumes, and he later confessed to me that he wasn't sure if she was genuinely complimenting him or subtly suggesting that he needed a shave, but Aunt Sylvia remained blissfully unaware of any awkwardness and continued offering similarly imaginative compliments to the rest of the family. Perhaps one of my favorite memories of Aunt Sylvia's etiquette experiments was when she decided to host a traditional British afternoon tea. She had gone all out. There were tiny sandwiches, scones with clotted cream, and of course, a variety of teas. Everything was arranged beautifully, and she even wore a hat and gloves to add to the authenticity. At some point during the tea, she decided it was time to teach us the proper way to drink from a teacup. She demonstrated how to hold the cup with elegance, with her pinky finger slightly raised. "It's all in the wrist," she said with an air of authority. She took a delicate sip, but somehow the tea splashed onto her face and dripped onto her blouse. Without missing a beat, she dabbed at the spot with her napkin and said, "This is a lesson in grace under pressure." We all burst out laughing. It was one of those moments that captured exactly what Aunt Sylvia was about, committed to propriety, but never too serious to laugh at herself when things didn't go as planned. Despite all the etiquette mishaps, Aunt Sylvia had an incredible ability to turn each moment into a life lesson. She would often remind us that even if things don't go perfectly, it doesn't mean they're a failure. She once said, "The point of good manners isn't to impress others, but to make them feel comfortable, even if that means laughing at a spilled cup of tea." Her lighthearted approach made her a joy to be around and taught me that the true spirit of etiquette is not in rigid rules, but in the way we make others feel. It was easy to see how she used these moments of politeness gone awry as a way to teach us humility, resilience, and the importance of embracing imperfections. After all, what's the harm in a bit of polite chaos every now and then? One of the last etiquette experiments Aunt Sylvia tried was introducing the concept of thank you notes for everything, literally everything. She believed that expressing gratitude was the highest form of etiquette, and she began sending out thank you notes for things like borrowing a pen or holding the door open. Her notes were detailed and beautifully written, but it soon became clear that people weren't sure how to respond. When she sent a thank you note to her neighbor for lending her a cup of sugar, the neighbor sent a thank you note back for the thank you note, which started a chain of back and forth correspondence that lasted weeks. It ended only when Aunt Sylvia ran out of stationery and declared, "I think we've achieved the pinnacle of gratitude." Take a deep breath in and let it out. Thank you for joining me tonight and for listening to Aunt Sylvia's story. It's a reminder that life doesn't always go according to plan, and that's okay. Sometimes the most valuable lessons come from the moments when we can laugh at ourselves and embrace the little mishaps along the way. I hope this story brought a smile to your face and maybe even made you think about your own funny etiquette moments. Until next time, sweet dreams, lovely friend. Good night, Seraphina.